Welcome to the North vs. South podcast, where we discuss gaming, technology, TV, and film. This is part 3 of the James Bond tier list. In this episode, we're discussing the Pierce Brosnan era of James Bond films.
So Josh, we finally get back to James Bond. Where we left off was A View to a Kill, and I did say in the previous podcast that I didn't actually fully watch it, but I've managed to watch all of it now. Yeah, and I do agree it is a D. It's not very good. There's like one fight scene in that film, proper like there's two fight scenes. There's the part where he gets given like a shotgun, and it's not really a shotgun, and he looks at the gun and he's like, what the hell is this? And then the fight on the helicopter.
Oh, at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
that wasn't
the
so
funny
great.
thing is I forgot his name. Is it Max Styles? I can't remember his name. He gets thrown off like instantly, and then and an old man.
And then his dad gets upset.
Yeah, like an old man just like wakes up and starts like gets his gun out and starts shooting.
Yeah, but you know who that guy is, right?
That's his dad. Yeah,
It's not his dad. It's his the genetic science who basically made him, because I think I can't remember, is he a clone or is he just genetically enhanced? It's the same stuff that they were doing to the horses in some sense, or it's a similar science.
Yeah, and that Russian guy comes along who's in the previous
Because they
one.
trained him in the KGB. He was originally a KGB operative, and he's gone rogue.
So your memory is better than mine, but yeah, it's definitely a D. It's definitely not a.
Okay, so I've got A View to a Kill in a D already. Anyway, so
Yeah, I think we agreed that it was a D, but I'm just confirming that it's definitely a D.
All right.
The next one is it?
The Living Daylights. Timothy Dalton.
I thought the opening was very good to this film. I really enjoyed the opening scene where doing like some sort of like practice. You know, it's not really, and then someone tries to kill him and ends up driving around and trying to fight that guy in the Jeep, and then they end up exploding the car and he parachutes out of there. I did like some of it, but I really wanted to like it, but for some reason I don't think it was that good of a film. I enjoyed the guy who he's in. Was he Russian? I can't remember if he was a defector, wasn't he?
Yes.
And they used like a tunnel system to get him back to like Austria.
Well, yeah. So there was so they were using the music event to help a Russian defector to defect, and then I think they it's not a tunnel, it's the pipelines, the oil pipelines or the gas pipelines. They put him into something to go into that and send him through, and then that's how Bond.
But he's a good actor. I forgot. I can't remember his name, but he's been in a few films that I've enjoyed. But he's always been like the villain, so you know what's gonna happen. Like, because then you find like there's a really good scene when that guy pretends to be the milkman.
Yes. Yeah.
And he starts
goes,
like throwing milk bottles and it explodes and he's like, to me he literally was like James Bond, but he was like the bad guy because he was putting the voices on, he was like communicating through the walkie-talkies, and then he was ringing people on the telephone saying there's a dangerous gas here, we need to evacuate the people.
In some ways, do you know what he reminds me of? The similar guy in From Russia with Love.
Yeah, he does.
Similar sort of. I mean, obviously, the bright blonde hair is obviously a big one, but yeah, like you're saying, like the characters that he's kind of putting on to do his job.
It was kind of funny because he was speaking in his normal voice, and then he puts on like this British accent, and it's like dead on like British. Like, what's up, mate? What's your problem? But yeah, that those scenes were good. I think for me, like, I just didn't enjoy like the Bond girl. The Bond girl in this was just non-existent, really.
So what makes a good Bond girl for you?
Well, actually have something to really do. Like, you just didn't feel like she had a presence in the film at all. She was there, but she just felt like she was just tagging along.
So what? But so why was she? What made her have less presence than, say?
Well, she's better. She's better than the lady in A View to a Kill. She just gets screaming, James, James, and you're like, oh, can you not do anything? She's better than that. Like the next film after this, like the difference between the two Bond girls, like night and day difference.
They are
it's
different,
just
but they're exhibiting different qualities. I think.
yeah.
So where are you putting this in the list?
I'd probably give it a C.
That's about where I expected from what you were saying.
Well, no, it's not. It's better than The View to a Kill. That's the thing, and it's not dematerialized. This film reminded me. Well, you haven't really seen it yet. Well, when you see James Bond in an '80s environment, you know, when he goes back to his office, the office is completely different. Moneypenny is like a secretary, young secretary lady. We only see her once in the Timothy Dalton films, the two films, but she was quite like an '80s secretary, quite sexy and but yeah, no, and then when he's on the bus, I think he's like stalking. He was stalking the lady on the bus, and the bus is like all gritty and had that kind of '80s feels to it.
Yeah, I mean that's something I've heard is that Timothy Dalton's James Bond films were gritty before gritty films were in. It's almost like they are quite similar to when we get to them, Daniel Craig's films, but just in the '80s sense.
I liked it, but it was weird when he had the violin and he had to make sure that violin was okay, the musical instrument, and he's like on the
He's a Stradivarius.
yeah, and she's very like, and they're like getting shot, they're getting shoot at by like Russians and God knows what, and he's like got to steer the thing, and he's got to make sure the musical.
So what did you think about that whole getaway scene from the start to the end? So it starts off in the car and it ends up out of the car. What do you think generally?
It wasn't too bad. Like, not going to complain. It was decent because he does like a stunt with the car, doesn't he? Like, and then they're on the ice, and then they got the cars coming towards them.
The gadgets on this car is it's got lasers.
Yes,
So he
yes,
cuts off.
absolutely.
So he cuts the police car off of the chassis.
But the gadgets in this actually make sense,
Yeah. They're actually, apart from the bit on the ice, which we'll come to, I think it does something with the blockade, maybe more missile or something, just before they go through the tunnel. And then, they eventually turn off onto a side road, go through some kind of wooden shed building, and end up driving a shed around on the ice for a little bit. I think they bust out of the shed.
And end up in Austria.
They end up with... Well, hang on. They end up with a tyre being blown out at some point. So he uses the rim to cut a ginormous hole in the ice, which in the wide shot looks about 30 metres wide. And then a second later, the police car is on a 3-metre wide ice that has just been cut out and is then sinking. Minor continuity error there, but all very impressive in the end. I think he had to put some tyre spikes through, so that ended up writing off the car, or maybe it was hit in an explosion or something. That's why they kind of ditched the car, and then they're using the cello case as a toboggan or a sled, and then they're using the Stradivarius cello as a sort of paddle to steer. And then I think finally they end up in Austria. Nothing to declare. I really enjoyed it because apart from a few minor continuity things, and I'm going to put this on to you, you're always talking about how all James Bond films are the same in terms of like the villain having this grand plan. In that sense, this car chase, this car chase is actually very different, and it's actually quite unique in some ways, a little bit quirky. I think Timothy Dalton misses some of those quirky jokes, but this is one of those places where they actually do come in, whereas it is a little bit more, a little bit less serious, a bit more fun. Obviously, it does go back to the more serious stuff later on. I think, this is a film where one of my favourite things happens, where James Bond has a relationship with someone who's neither good nor bad, because they have that guy who they fake his death on stage. I can't remember where they are at this point, but it's sort of like...
Well, they're doing it because the guy that's defected, if I remember correctly, they think that James Bond is going to kill him, and James Bond's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to kill him, but he actually doesn't. He tricks him because he can barely remember, to be honest. But
yeah, but that scene where they fake his death, that's probably one of my favourite scenes in all of James Bond, because the milkman guy is there. I know it's not his name, but I think that's what we're going to refer to him now as that,
Yeah,
isn't
the
it?
milkman guy.
The milkman guy's there with a spotlight, and then sort of like spots the light on James Bond. James Bond is there in the light, immediately shoots the bulb out, and then kind of like runs. I think that's referenced in a Daniel Craig film. A very similar scene to that is filmed later on. That's probably one of my favorite scenes. And I will say, this is my favorite James Bond film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I think possibly for some of the reasons you kind of already said, the Bond girl is very different,
Right.
and I like that about this film. Like, she's not this, not that she isn't super sexy or super good looking, but that's not what they play her as. You know, she's a KGB agent. She's a musician, and obviously that plays to me a bit, being a musician. Those bits in there, I'm not gonna lie, the green Aston Martin, absolutely loved it. I was gutted when that car was destroyed, or how I can't remember how they lost it. I love how I'm saying this is my favourite James Bond film, but it's actually been a few years since I've seen it.
But you do remember it pretty well, so I gotta give it a prop.
Timothy Dalton is my favourite James Bond actor because the way he plays James Bond is probably the closest to the books. His James Bond is mostly the James Bond from the books, whereas particularly Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan, they're not really the book James Bond. But Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton are very, very, very close to the books. So for me, if you would permit this,
Yeah, I'm listening.
I want this to go no lower than a B.
Mm-hmm.
And if you will permit me, I would like to put this as an A. Because this is my favourite James Bond film.
Would you say it's better than the next film?
Yes.
I disagree. I think the next film is better than
But
this one.
only because, and I know technically License to Kill is better. And this obviously, spoiler alert, I just found this story more interesting than a generic drug deal. Because that's, to me,
I understand what you're saying.
I think we're now talking, because there's only two Timothy Dalton films, we're kind of talking about them both at the same time. License to Kill had some great moments in it, and you're right, there's two Bond girls in it, the MI6 girl and the girl from the casino. They are both fantastic characters. The final chase scene at the end, while a little long, has some great moments in it, the truly obscene moments, like the truck doing a wheelie. But in general, I'm not a fan of that film. I'm just...
Well, let's say what... I think you said The Living Daylight, so you mean License to Kill, when you was talking about the truck scene and...
Yeah, that's the ending of it.
Okay, alright, I can permit you... I'm not saying it's a bad film, for some reason, I couldn't really connect with it, except for the parts where it seemed more gritty. I liked the 80s look, and I liked some of the scenes. But for a story, I couldn't really get into it. But yeah, okay, if you want to put it as an A, fair enough. But then you have to let me have License to Kill pretty high then, I suppose.
Oh yeah, like I really like License to Kill as well. But for me, I just prefer it to...
But I like it for the wrong reasons, though. That's okay, so License to Kill, 1989.
I would absolutely put License to Kill as an A film.
Okay, but...
Because, like I said, Timothy Dalton is my favourite actor.
License to Kill is not a James Bond film. It's a revenge flick, and it's a very good revenge flick. And it's an 80s Miami Vice drugs. As a James Bond film, it's probably a C, but as an actual film itself...
I'm gonna turn it on you.
Go on then.
Because you're like... You don't like all these stories where James Bond is going up against a villain who's trying to end the world. Well, here's a story where he's going up against a villain who's not trying to end the world. And what do? Say it's a film.
True.
So, Tommy, tell me, what do you want from a James Bond film? This should be your perfect James Bond film. This also has the scene from in the book with Felix Leiter, with the marriage, the wife being killed, and his legs being bitten off.
Let me explain. I enjoy License to Kill. I'm not saying I definitely think it's an A. In terms of an actual James Bond film, it's not a James Bond film.
So describe to me then, permit me if you will, what is the formula, not this film, so we're not talking about any James Bond film at the moment, what is the formula for a James Bond film?
A typical James Bond film that I don't normally like, but I have to confess that it's normally in a James Bond film. Okay, firstly, you have British agent who's very self-confident, you have a very sexy Bond girl, you have nice cars, you have loads of action, and typically you have an action where it'll be, I'm doing this because I want to destroy the world. There'll be another reason that is a little bit more clever, like Octopussy.
Can't remember what the goal there was actually.
I told you in the last podcast where
No, I know, but I can remember them storming the castle, climbing the walls, but I can't remember what the villain's end goal was.
the villain's end goal was to blow up the bombs at the airbase, and then America and Western NATO would think, oh, we've had an accident with nuclear weapons that we.
Was that in Octopussy?
Is it? Yeah. The one on the train. He's fighting on the train. The one before A View to a Kill, and the golden egg, and he goes and buys it. Anyway, don't worry about that. Let's continue about things. So the thing that is different in License to Kill to the rest of the James Bond formula, this film had someone get really like one character died, another character got brutally messed up in a messed up way.
But I will say that's book accurate.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
lifted straight
But
from the
we're talking
books.
about films though. So this is what is not as a James Bond film compared to the rest of the films. It had drugs. It had James Bond going on a revenge flick. It even had.
But it had your favourite. It had your casino.
I had the drug lord have his own personal secretary guy talk to him about finances and deals and.
Oh, the small blonde guy.
Yeah, I fucking love that guy.
He looked like he's
That
from
fucking
Westlife.
lawyer guy. It was a typical 80s fucking drug. It had everything like.
Oh, and there's the shaman, the guy on TV raising funds. That was fun.
It had all that, yeah. But the thing I did hate, and this is what I hate about the film, is that, and they do this with every film, I've noticed with some of the films, it's like James Bond has gone rogue. He's gone rogue.
He does go rogue a lot. Probably about a third of his films he goes rogue.
No, hold on. That's fine. He's gone.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, it seems to happen quite a
He
lot.
goes rogue. That's great. Okay, he's gone rogue. And no one can track him. Like, it's really hard to track him. They don't know where he is. And then, like, 3/4 of the way through, he goes into a room. It's all pitch black. And then he stumbles upon Q. And then you're like, how the hell has Q managed to find him? Why is Q in this film?
I think that's because
Moneypenny managed to track him down, apparently. That's what he says. Moneypenny helped me track you down. And he finds him and he's like, I've got all the latest guns, 00. Like, he doesn't need, like, this is not, for me, that kind of just took me out. I was like, oh yeah, this is just James Bond. He does help, because then he talks to Sanchez's missus and says, oh, just keep your cover and stuff like that. Yeah, he ends up, I don't know why Q had to turn up. Like, they didn't have Moneypenny, but Q turns up and it just like, oh. And they do that a few times in like the Daniel Craig ones as well, where you just have this character, like James Bond goes rogue, is off the grid and stuff like this, and then someone will turn up and find him and remind us that he has to have a scene where he gets to watch, he gets the guns, he gets all the special equipment and stuff, because then he needs to use it later on. But this film kind of just didn't need that at all, in my opinion.
But isn't the special equipment part? The special equipment, the gadgets in the car, that's part of James Bond's shtick.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I didn't feel that this was actually a James Bond film. So that when that scene happened, I was quite.
So even adding it in, it didn't.
I was quite disappointed.
It take you out.
Yeah, it took me out. I was like, oh, we're doing this scene again. But I loved it. I really did enjoy it, and I loved the fact that he managed just to con Suarez and get that guy killed, because he puts all the money inside his ship. He kills him.
That was pretty brutal. There's a lot of brutal deaths.
Yeah, that's what I love about it.
There's a lot of brutality in this, isn't there?
And then he's got like a little sidekick. He's like a younger sidekick of it, like quite violent and.
This kicked off his career quite well, apparently, even though he lost his legs in the meat grinder.
But yeah, no, good film. And also the Bond girl is very, like, she's very she's a very competitive and secretly, like, she really likes James Bond, and at the end when James Bond is like, he's thinking about, oh, okay, I'll get it on with Suarez's missus, but then the Bond girl turns up and gets upset, and then he jumps in the pool.
Because there's two Bond girls in this film, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, there's the Suarez's missus, and there's
someone from the MI6 or the CIA, or someone on the good side.
That KGB guy is in it again right at the end. Yeah, he's in. Look, he went past him. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good film, but I didn't think it was an actual James Bond film. That's what I liked more about it.
Okay.
What would you say to that though? Like, would you agree that it's an actual James Bond film or an 80s revenge flick? It felt like if you ever seen
the bit that feels the most James Bond is that truck.
Yes.
Doing its backflip,
Yeah.
because that's something that's not physically possible. That's something that feels like a James Bond trope. But the rest of the film could have been a Die Hard film, or
It felt like a Chinese action film, revenge flick.
I've not seen too many of those, so I couldn't.
There you go. It really did feel like that. They really messed up something, and he's like, I'm gonna.
So are you happy with that being an A?
Yeah, I'm happy. I don't think it's an S because
You don't think it's a B?
no, it's an A.
Okay.
Because there are so many cool scenes in that film, and there's so many cool characters. The only downside is, like I said, there are some characters that really shouldn't be in the film that just turn up because they're like, oh, okay, maybe it's like a contract, thing that they have to show this guy, and we're paying this guy, so we might as well use him for something. But you agree with me though, like some of the aspects of this film you wouldn't think of as a James Bond flick, but that's why it was really good.
No, and that's that's such a weird sentence. But no, I have always felt that about the story, is that the whole drug story doesn't necessarily feel like a James Bond. But you see, without James Bond having revenge, it wouldn't have been a James Bond mission. Like, M would never have sent James Bond on this type of mission because that's not what they deal with. It's only because
he didn't know. He ran off. That's why he went rogue.
That's what I'm saying. Because it's a personal thing, and it was obviously something that Felix Leiter was working on because that was part of his role. He got maimed. The new wife got murdered. That's why James Bond went after it, not as his job, just because his skills could deal with it. I can't remember if License to Kill is an actual book or if it's one of the short stories.
No, it's not. It's just I think it's not part of the Ian Fleming. Living Daylights is though.
The Living Daylights is part of.
It's a short story, isn't it?
It's a short story. It's in. I think it's actually in the same book. It's is it Octopussy? That's got all the short stories in it.
I think what they do is what you're saying there is like some.
Well, what I mean is sometimes they take a title and rewrite a movie out of it. I was trying to work out if it was one of the titles that was a novel title or if it was a brand new one. All right, so we're out of Timothy Dalton and into Pierce Brosnan, which is
1995.
It's a weird. Just talking about the series overall, it's a weird one. I think there's some really good films and some really bad films in this era, and I don't think that's on Pierce Brosnan. I think he had in general, I think he had a good Bond. He just suffered from poor writing.
I might surprise you on one or two.
All right, sure. So, GoldenEye.
It's a B.
Okay.
What would you say?
I know why you'd say it's a B. I'm not a fan of it.
It's not a pretty picture or pleasant picture to watch, and I probably wouldn't watch it anytime soon, but when I was watching it, I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I suppose on its own, it could be higher, but when you watch the other three films of his, they have a particular
Style.
Yeah, they have a particular style, and GoldenEye doesn't fit it. GoldenEye feels more like Timothy Dalton's films, and I do know, or I have read somewhere, that not necessarily this story, but Timothy Dalton was supposed to have a third film. They may have started writing this film for Timothy Dalton, or with that aesthetic.
Yeah, he was contracted to do a third film, but
It either took too. I think it took too long, didn't it? And then he was too old. He felt too old.
They had It wasn't that the film took too long. I think it was MGM and another company were arguing about rights.
Yes, yeah, but it was a bigger break between this and License to Kill, if I remember. Yeah, it's like six years. That's like
it's a long time.
When you think A View to a Kill was 85, The Living Daylights was 87, and the last Roger Moore was 83.
I think they sorted it out in 93, and they asked Timothy Dalton in 93, do you want to do the next James Bond? And he said no. And then they got Pierce Brosnan.
Probably moved on to another film by then, probably.
I think he just didn't want to do it. He just said he didn't want to do it. It's been too long. And he was out of contract. Like, it's a shame, really, because it would have been nice to have a third film, but yeah, it's what it is.
I think GoldenEye basks in the glory of the N64 game, not the film itself. At least for people in my generation. So everyone who's my age always goes on about how great GoldenEye N64 is. In fact, I played the game when I was like, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years old. I didn't see the film until I was 20.
Really? 20?
Yeah, I didn't really get into the James Bond films for ages. I'd seen one or two here and there, and we'll talk about that in a second, actually. and then I watched Casino Royale, and then I read the books, but I still didn't watch any of the films. And all the James Bond films I'd seen before then had been in bits. So I'd seen like half a film here, half a film there, a bit of a film here. I'd never really sat down and watched an entire James Bond film. I knew the process of a James Bond film. I remember being ushered out of the room when I was a young child when I think Sean Connery was undressing a woman with the magnetic watch. Or was that Roger Moore? That scene, I was like, get out. There's a scene coming up. You can't see it. I was like, oh, all right, okay, thanks, bye. And that's probably why I didn't see them all when I was very young anyway. So, yeah, I don't hold much love for this film.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where I think I saw it at an early age, but then never really rewatched it many times like the other Pierce Brosnan films. The Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough, I've seen it a lot as a kid. GoldenEye, I just remember, oh, that's the one where he's got a tank. It's a good story. It's a good story, and
I think it's got a similar Bond girl to The Living Daylights, actually, where against your standards for a Bond girl, she can actually do and she has more to her than being a girl and being sexy. So, like, in The Living Daylights, she was a KGB operative and she was a musician. In this one, I don't know if they're KGB at this point. I think they're military, and she's a computer scientist of some kind. So there's more to her than just being female. And I'll say I like that when they've done stuff like that. You know, she's actually leading Bond at multiple times in the film, as opposed to just being someone hopelessly following James Bond.
Do you remember the guy? He's the hacker as well. He's the other. He has like the most annoying face.
I'm invincible. Jen loves that line.
Yeah, and he has the annoying voice as well. But you kind of get, like, he's pretty good as an actor.
Yeah, and, you know, like I've just done the voice. It's iconic. You can't deny that. I think I knew about the iconicness of GoldenEye years before I'd even watched the film.
And that woman is crazy.
I don't like that character. I'm not a fan of it.
It's because she's crazy. She's just sucking people, like not sucking, well,
biting and squeezing.
Well, she does, I don't know, yeah, she does like some sort of like biting and suffocating people with her legs, sorry.
And I think her death scene was a bit weird. It's a bit quick.
I don't know if it's the same. I don't know who he plays in GoldenEye. He might be. He plays a CIA. You know the guy in The Living Daylights. He had like all the guns, and at the end, James Bond has a shootout with him.
Oh, the American.
Yeah.
Is he in GoldenEye?
He is in GoldenEye. Yes, it's the same actor. He's the guy that just like Pierce Brosnan goes to him and asks him for help, and then he sends.
Oh, he's the one with the army.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's not the same character, is it? Obviously not.
No, it's not.
I didn't realize.
Character.
I didn't notice that.
Because he's a bad guy. He gets like taken away, doesn't
he?
He gets killed in The Living Daylights, if I remember correctly.
That's insane. Why did they do that?
Because he does look totally different. To be fair,
I suppose it's probably about 8 years difference at this point, but still, that's. I mean, I never noticed, clearly.
Well, there you go. Like, he does look different. And 8 years have gone by, and he has like a hat on and stuff.
And a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
Like, now you say that, it's obvious.
I was thinking, yeah, because I was like, oh, is this the same bloke as in The Living? And then they introduced him as a different name, and he's a different, like, story behind it, and I was like, oh, no, it's not the same guy. And the guy in The Living Daylights, he just stood there and started talking. He looked like he was blind. He looked really weird when he was talking, the character. And in this, he was moving around, he was joking around, and totally different demeanour. But yeah, I'll give it a B. I don't know what you would give GoldenEye.
I have zero love for it, but you can't deny the acclaim the film has got.
So Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm guessing that's 90, 96, 97? I'm guessing 97. Oh, I'm right, 97. I'm always right. Yeah.
I watched this about 3 weeks ago and I can't remember it.
It's an interesting story, but it's got a lot of generic action scenes.
This is the mogul one, the news mogul.
Yeah, so the guy's targeting like different. I think he's targeting China, and he's targeting like British pilots, stealth ships and stuff, and he's like taking them down, and then he's trying to cause a war, and he's like, "This is great for news. I'm gonna be the top newsman in the world." And then James Bond gets wind, and it stops him. It's an okay film. I'd probably give it.
I wouldn't give it, for me.
I'll give it a C.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would be quite happy for it to be a D. I am fine with it being a C. I don't think it's a B.
No. It's definitely a D or a C, but I think because it's an interesting.
Can I put it as a D?
No, because I think that the next film is a D.
All right.
That's why I'm giving it as a C.
Okay.
Because I think this film is better than The World Is Not Enough.
Okay, so I think The World Is Not Enough as a D.
What do you think?
Can you remind me what it's about? Again, I watched this 3 weeks ago.
It's about like So it has a good speed chase through London, though. To be fair, he gets on a speedboat.
Like that first scene, iconic. That's one of the things that I'd seen. This is the one with that weird girl chick whose dad dies.
Yeah, and then it's her. She wants her oil and the pipes and.
Electra King, that's the one. Electra King.
And there's a guy that has a bullet. He gets shot in the head.
Yeah.
I think it's a D.
I think it's.
That's the thing. Well, we haven't really got much to say about these films because they're quite forgettable. I've seen them so many times, but there's not really much to say about them. Like I wouldn't recommend. Like as a kid, I had them on VHS and I had not really a lot to do sometimes. So I was like, okay, I'll watch this film. But the Bond girl is she's not very good either. She's quite.
Which Bond girl? The main one or the secondary one?
Not the villain. Not that one.
This Dr. Christmas Jones.
Yeah.
You didn't like her?
No, not really. She's not very good. There is a good They go through the skiing and he gets chased.
They do like their skiing chase scenes, don't they?
Yeah, that one is.
Hang on. Is this the scene where Q retires?
No, he doesn't retire. He actually.
Well, there was a film where John Cleese is there as not Q, and then Desmond's Q says to Bond, "Always have an escape plan," as he's descending through the floor. And yeah, I didn't know that, but I'm just seeing that
he died.
Oh yeah, it is this film.
Yeah, that's his last one.
Although he's not officially retiring, the Q character was training his eventual replacement, which was John Cleese. And then, yeah, Quillen was killed in a car accident shortly after the film's premiere. That seems to be a thing about James Bond films. That's the second character, at least, that I know died shortly after the premiere. That's actually quite sad. But we're still putting it as a D.
Yeah, there's some good action scenes, but it's quite. You got the guy who gets he gets shot in the head. There's a submarine where they have to. They're stopping like a nuclear something going off or a bomb, and he has to go in the ship, and the water starts coming through. It's not. It's for me. It's a D. I'd say. Where did you put it? Is it there?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
Not enough. All right. Die Another Day.
2002. Die Another Day. Now this is going to surprise you.
I don't think it will.
What are you going to give it?
So Die Another Day is actually the first Bond film I saw in full. So that colours
that.
But yeah, maybe you can, but that colours an opinion because
it's the first film I saw in the cinema.
Wow.
First James Bond film in the cinema.
Really? Okay. You're not that much younger than me, and I saw 101 Dalmatians in the cinema in like 1995.
I saw other films. I'm just saying that's the first James Bond film.
Oh, I was like, what?
Not the first film.
I haven't seen any of these in the cinema.
Fair enough. That was the first one. But I gotta say though, like I always remember I was a kid watching it, and then the title sequence comes through, and he shoots the gun, and the bullet in this one actually goes towards the screen, and he looks like, oh shit. It's like a 3D kind of thing. It is a bit silly. Like as a kid, I was like, "Oh, this is awesome," but now I'm like, "It's a bit silly, isn't it?"
So I think this is his best film.
Yeah, I agree as well.
And I know a lot of people don't like this film. I know that, but I think it's just got a bit of everything that's good. Apart from, I don't know how I feel about the song, but we're not doing songs.
Yeah, the song is terrible.
The opening scene,
yes,
is phenomenal.
It is. It's a great opening scene.
It's so brilliant. And then, yeah, I think there's just so many great bits about the film. Yeah, the CGI is a bit
when he's on a
but it was
parachute.
2002.
He's on a parachute, isn't he? And he's
yeah. Lord of the Rings had some terrible CGI at the same time. I think this has some great bits in it.
And the car fights.
It's got your sexy Bond girl. The car was perfect. The Vanquish, the Vanish. I'm not saying it's a perfect Bond film, but I think it's at least as good as GoldenEye.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same. I was surprised. I was going to give it a B, and I thought you was going to say D. To be fair.
Like I said, I think because it was the first Bond film that I saw, and I would have seen it around when it came out on video, that colours how I see things like the gadgets in a James Bond film. Like all that scene at the end where he's using the car to like drive it in remotely. We've seen bits of it in the past. I think he had remote control car in The World Is Not Enough because it gets chopped in half, doesn't it? But it was it was a really good film. I loved it. He was definitely in this film, and there's another James Bond film, and I don't know if it was a Daniel Craig or if it was another Pierce Brosnan, but they seem to like doing Jaguars chasing Aston Martins, like two British luxury car chasing each other. That car chase at the end was absolutely mad and cheesy, but in a James Bond kind of way.
Yeah, I just enjoyed most of it. The only parts I didn't enjoy, which I found was very funny, was when he gets examined by the medical team and he's laid on a bed and it looks like he's actually forced himself to die.
Well, he's slowed his heartbeat down, yeah.
Yeah, and then and he gets electric shocked and then he's like, oh, right, back to work. That was a bit funny and stupid, but... And the other thing was when Madonna turns up.
Madonna?
She doesn't belong in... Yeah, she's in this film.
Who is she in... Where's... What hair?
So, you know when he goes to to meet the Korean guy that's actually he's been like altered to look like that British millionaire diamond guy, and they have that sword fight.
Oh yeah, in the fancy place, and they just destroy everything. Yep.
Before that, there's like a teacher of swords, and she was telling James Bond that the Bond girl.
Oh, is that who he was flirting with?
So that was Madonna.
Oh, okay.
Madonna.
I'm really bad at recognizing people, so I didn't notice that was her. Did not notice. So here's the funny thing, right? Similar plot device to Diamonds Are Forever, because it's diamonds up in a satellite doing something. Diamonds Are Forever used them to... I think they were aiming them at nuclear bunkers to blow them up in situ, and I don't know what he was doing with it. As far as I could tell, he was just cutting off bits of icebergs. I presume he had a plan to like melt London and New York as a warning.
No.
But...
His plan was to then use it against like NATO.
Yeah. Usually it's like, you know, it's a bit like what's the film? The Watchmen, where they blow up New York and Russia to make it look like the Cold War's starting up again. It's that kind of thing.
No. He literally is like, because he starts talking to his dad on the plane. And he goes, don't you recognize me? And he's like, look what I can do.
Oh, of course, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Now I'm seeing it now because he wants to reunify North and South Korea, and he's going to use it.
And he's like, you know what the Americans are going to do? They're going to send like nuclear. And then he's like, the one thing I did not like about this film, they had an actor who's been in like he's been in a lot of Quentin Tarantino films. Michael Madsen. He was just terrible. He played like the CIA director. And he just kept spouting off like silly one-liners to M, saying, "Oh, if you don't get this sorted, blah blah blah. My man is working on it."
Oh, is he where M was in that area?
Yeah, he could just keep spouting stuff off, and it was...
I don't recognise him, so I can't picture who he would have played.
That's fine, but he's if you watch it again, you might feel a bit like, oh, this character's just, the way he's acted as well, it's just not very good.
Yeah, he must have been the guy who was M's opposite. He was in charge of Jinx on the American side. So yeah, he must have been that guy. He only had 6 lines in the whole film. It's not that bad.
He just didn't fit. I would give it a B.
Thank you for listening to this episode of North vs South. Please feel free to like and comment on YouTube, or subscribe and rate us in your podcasting app. Goodbye.